Hello, and welcome to our Eduro Learning video series, Let's Get Connected. In this series, we will hear from 10 connected teachers from all around the world as they share their top tips for getting connected, ways to connect your classroom and your students, to advice for ways to bring parents on board with a connected classroom, and so much more. My name is Chrissy Hallier and I'll be your host throughout this series. I've been a connected teacher with a connected classroom for over 10 years now, and I can't wait to introduce you to some of the connected educators that I've had the privilege of getting connected to and working on global collaboration projects with. Today, our amazing connected teachers are back with us to talk about the value of getting connected with your students. So we've already talked about the value of being a connected educator, but today's conversation is all about what's the value for the students in your classroom. Enjoy the conversation.
The value for students of being in a connected classroom kind of stem from this perspective seeking, I think. When I think about that question, it kind of lends me back to the Course 5 coattail project that I was part of. And in that project, it was all about blogging with art students across the world. And it was really cool because it allowed students in my classroom to hear feedback about their art as it was in process from students in Singapore, in China, and in Dubai. And what that really afforded them was an opportunity to hear from their peers in a format that was safe and promoted digital citizenship at the same time. It was also a place where, we were able to kind of post content that we were curious about finding more about. And so my students really were like, okay, guys, what do you think about this project that I'm working on? And they were able to connect with people in those different locations and hear their voices and their opinions. And these were kids who were making art in their situation. And the cool thing is that like art is such a global thing anyways. And to have that opportunity to share and then also responding to their artwork was really cool. It was interesting to hear them kind of have opinions and perspectives that they wanted to add coming from the Middle East and adding information on art that was being made in Southeast Asia by kids who were 13 years old. It was so cool. And so I think what was really interesting now, we've kind of switched a little bit. We try and kind of change platforms a touch. And the big push that we've currently got going is just a class Instagram account. And so that allows me a really cool opportunity for kids to take over that account every once in a while. And then what they do is they post content that they've been working on or finished projects or things that have been going on in the studio. And it's just like opening up a window to what we've been doing. And so it's really been an interesting kind of new push. Recently, I let them take over the account because we actually have standards that are connected to this idea of presenting work. And so how do you present yourself online in a connected classroom? That's fantastic because you have this platform, Instagram, which they are using. My students are constantly using. And I was able to leverage that in a way that just gave them the perfect opportunity to share the visual content that they're creating. And I mean, it goes both ways. We use Instagram and check out other people's projects. We've been working with, I've been in contact with Morgan Student Art, who used to be a teacher at Shaco, and she was doing these crazy cool projects. I said, I really want to see if my kids could try those. And so my kids started to find her online and follow her through Instagram, and then we started to look at her students' work, and then we started to dissect how those things were possibly made. And so it was this really interesting way how artists kind of work. We look at pieces, you might go to a museum or whatever, but my kids were just looking on Instagram and trying to figure out how did these guys in China make these pieces and how could I do them here? So there's something just perfectly amazing about having that. And it was good for the students to open themselves up as well. Having a connected classroom allows them to kind of feel that they have something to say and something to add, and that they were able to have an importance to some of the art that they were making. Sometimes it's funny being an art teacher at the end of the year. It's the end of the year right now. I get the unfortunate time of sometimes having to kind of get rid of artwork that hasn't necessarily made the cut or something. I don't know how kids choose sometimes, but it's funny, all the pieces that got posted online and had been seen to a wider audience have all gone home, which I think is indicative of like that secondary layer of why it's important to have a window into your classroom. And that is just to allow kids to have a voice and a platform to share their work. And they take a lot of value in that. And it's pretty cool. The other thing I do with my kids is that I share with them that I'm doing this on a regular basis myself. I mean, I'm learning, I'm contacting people, I'm trying to stay connected as well. And so we had this really cool experience. I teach design as well, and so design tech. And one of the classes that we were working was doing some 3D printing work. And I was like, guys, I found this amazing 3D printer. And it's this gentleman from the Netherlands, and he created a 3D printer that extrudes ceramic clay. And so it actually builds a ceramic pot layer by layer by layer. And I showed them this video, and they were just enthralled. And I said, all right, let's contact him and see what he has to say. Like maybe he'll write back. Who knows? So of course we write him, and I'm doing this in class. I'm telling the kids, I'm showing them on the screen as I'm writing this introductory sort of email. And without a doubt, he writes back like the next day, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to be in Dubai. It'd be great if we could try and meet up." And it was just one of those instances when the kids were like, "Oh my gosh, this happens, and this is how it works, and you can do that, and just contact people out of the blue." And I said, "Yeah, this is how this works now, right? This is what we have at our disposal." And it was so cool.
So I think it's really important for students to be part of a connected classroom because it provides them with opportunities to learn how some of these tools that we're using today can really be used specifically for global communication and collaboration, which I think is just an incredibly valuable skill for the future and for our workforce. And then, of course, the same goes for teachers. And I often work with a lot of classroom teachers thinking about what are ways that we can explore new tools to become connected and bring them to our students. And I think there's also this opportunity to help students develop their digital identities and helps teachers to kind of do the same thing and think about respectful discourse across cultures and communities. And this opportunity to kind of practice storytelling and, engaging in empathetic collaboration, things that are, I think harder to do when it's not as authentic, right? When you're not really connecting with someone who's from a different area and has really different lived experiences than you do. If you're able to do that by forming real relationships and looking at how technology can enable those and facilitate them, I think that's really important.
I remember when I got one of my first permanent teaching jobs, and the very first thing I wanted to do was to buy a bunch of clocks and put clocks on the wall, because I've been in buildings before with offices where they have, New York, London, Paris. They had all the times on the wall. So I went to my principal and I said, I need some budget. I need to buy 5 clocks. And he thought it was the strangest request ever. And he said, why on earth would you need 5 clocks in your room? And I said, because I need my students to understand that the world exists outside this room, and they need to be constantly reminded that it's a different time in different places of the world, because that helps them understand that world exists, which is too easy to forget if you're just locked in this room all day.
Students and being connected is invaluable. They don't know that to begin with. They don't quite, like I've got grade 3s, right? So they're 8 years old when they come to me. Some of them turn 9 by the time that they leave, and they don't quite understand the value of it. Maybe they won't for a few years, but they're certainly loving the authentic experience that if I can talk about blogging for a second, brings with it. Being able to communicate with other kids like them or not like them, kids that they've never heard names, strange names to them, is really fascinating and sometimes hilarious to them. Being able to write comments, read comments. So the language piece, the writing and the reading piece is, without question valuable. Evaluating what do they read online? What are they reading from other children around the world? And learning from each other. So that's really important for us. Mm-hmm.
To answer your question about the value for students, I really need to give you a bit of an example. For IB Computer Science and also for IB ITGS and Information Technology in a Global Society, both of them have case studies. And case studies are given to the kids 18 months to a year before their examination. The value for them of connectivity is collective intelligence. because we start up our own. We used to use wiki spaces before it was closed down, but we start up our own online site. We share it out and we collaborate with different schools, and we put up our information. We build collectively a knowledge base. It's tapping into experiences that might come from Singapore, or might come from Hong Kong, or it may come from Delhi or New York. And you're bringing all of these things together and different perspectives. You're getting different points of view. And particularly for ITGS, which is a social science topic, you're suddenly getting the whole, here is a racial perspective, here is a different national perspective, as you're seeing it from a different lens. For the students, it enables a global perspective that they don't get any other way. For sciences, because I do some work with our sciences as well, it enables you to visit virtually spaces that they would never get to otherwise. You can work with a school in Chile and collect weather data and environmental data there, which would be completely impossible if you were just sitting back in your classroom. The data would have no relevance. You wouldn't be able to have the conversations about how it was collected, what the weather was like. Anything like that would be completely missed. It would be a cold set of numbers.
So when it came to having a connected classroom, it's always one of those ones trying to think about, why is this important to my students or how it can help them? And one of the biggest things that I kind of took away from it is the fact that it helps them build relationships. They realize that the people that they're connecting with are more than just, it's not like a robot. There's actually someone on the other side of the screen, and there's people that they can have friendships with, that they can learn about their lives and things like that. And so that was one of the biggest things for me, was that they can build relationships. Another one was just collaborate and work on projects beyond the classroom walls. There's so many, the same thing with, like, as an adult, I can connect with other people. As can kids. They can work on a book report with someone halfway across the world and have that opportunity, which then leads them to experiencing new places and new cultures. A lot of my students don't leave the area that we live in. And so they get to learn about Missouri or Australia or things like that from the kids that they're connecting with. And then, it helps prepare them for college and jobs. They're probably not going to work in isolation. And so they're going to need to be able to connect with people in other cultures and learn how to interact with them. And so this helps prepare them for college and the job force. And that's ultimately what we want our students to be able to do. And so those are some of the reasons why it's kind of valuable for students to be able to connect with others.
For students of being a connected classroom is that they have good modeling of digital citizenship practices. There's a lot to learn if you're going to have a Skype with another class. When I first did it, I didn't realize this. So all the kids were running around and they're waving and they're excited to see themselves on camera and excited to see some other class in Sri Lanka on camera. And then I thought, well, there's a lot of things that the kids would need to know, like turn taking and things that we do, I think, normally as teachers, but you add that level of tech and then all of a sudden it's something, really special, right? So, a lot of those digital citizenship things about what we can put online for everyone to see, I think that was a bit of an eye-opener for some of the kids. You mean anyone can see this? Anyone can see our tweet? Anyone? And it was like, yeah, you have a real audience. And I think that's one of the most powerful things for the kids, is to have that authentic audience, that, it's not just the kids in the class that see how you behave or how you talk or what you're doing, but it's going to be anyone in the world. And so that was a bit of a sort of a big mind-blowing moment for the kids. And that really made them to strive and to, do the best that they could do.
Right now, I'm working at a very, very small school, and we actually are pretty isolated in the Arabian desert of eastern Saudi Arabia. So for my students, the idea of being connected to something outside of this community is invaluable to them. It enriches their experiences. It allows them to see so many different things in the world that we don't have in this tiny community. So any chance that I have to connect with anyone outside, I feel like is valuable for them.
You're always, and your students get to always be thinking about what collaboration pieces could we do with whatever we're learning. And it kind of almost automatically makes any work that you do like that authentic, because now you're preparing things for an authentic audience. It's not like in my early teaching years, and I remember when I was in the classroom, teachers would have us do some projects where maybe you'd end up with a book or some kind of a brochure on something. But the only people that ever saw it was, you know, your parents maybe and the teacher and maybe a couple kids in class, and that was it. And so there definitely wasn't that incentive to, wow, I mean, anybody in the world can come see this. And so I want to go back and edit it and really make sure it's good. And then the excitement when, you know, for example, in blogging, when all of a sudden, you know, somebody in China just read my blog post because it popped up on my little map showing me where my readers
When
are
students
from.
are in a connected classroom, they're more motivated to learn. They care more. I've had times when my students have been working with children. I remember one time we were working with a class in the Ukraine, and it was right before the Ukraine was taken over by Russia. And my students, who never were interested in the news, we never talked about what was going on in the world, came in the day after it was on the news and said, oh my gosh, what's going on with our friends? Can you call them? Can you find out if they're okay? They were so concerned about people other than themselves. They couldn't wait to get into the classroom to talk to me. I had children messaging me at night saying, what's happening with our friends over in the Ukraine? That's the value of being a connected educator and connected students, that they have a connection to other people in the world, and the empathy that they feel for other people in the world is just greater. And the fact that I have children motivated to contact me at night instead of playing on their video games because they saw something, heard something in the news, is just unbelievable.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I enjoyed having it with all those amazing connected teachers. There is real value in connecting your students as well as connecting yourself. For me, getting my students connected in the classroom meant that I was able to provide a window into the classroom. At least that's what I started out doing. I wanted to give parents in my classroom the opportunity to have a window into the classroom without actually having to physically get down into the classroom themselves. And from there it just exploded, because not only did it give a window in, it provided a window out for us, and our learning just skyrocketed. So I hope you're really enjoying this series, and I hope that you enjoyed all of the past conversations that we've had and continue to enjoy the rest of the conversations that we're going to be having in this series. Talk to you again soon. If you like this format, hearing from lots of different perspectives on a single topic, then please click on that like button below. Subscribe to our channel to get all of the videos in this series. Turn on the notifications to find out when we're live on YouTube, and be the first to see the next installment in the Let's Get Connected series. Do you have any questions about having a connected classroom or being a connected teacher? Or would you like to see a specific series related to anything about education and technology? Leave us a comment below and let us know. If you'd like to see even more resources to help you in the classroom after you've watched this series, then head on over to our website and check out all of our free resources. We have more videos, blog posts, some online courses all about teaching and learning and coaching in the digital world.